Everyone admired CEO Daniel Cross. Commanding in the boardroom, decisive in crises, a man who built empires with little more than instinct and iron will. But Daniel was also a man who noticed things, especially people. One person he noticed more than most was Marie, an aging janitor who moved quietly through the marble hallways each evening. She was always on time, never asked for help, and carried herself with a quiet dignity that outshone her uniform. A black single mother, she kept her head down, but her eyes, tired, focused, and endlessly resilient, held something deeper. One rainy evening, as she slipped out the back exit, something in Daniel stirred. It wasn't suspicion, it was curiosity, maybe concern. He wanted to know more. Why did she walk like the weight of the world lived on her back? That night, without a word, Daniel made a decision. He would follow her. Her name is Marie Thompson. To most, she's just the janitor, a background presence in the gleaming office tower of Cross Global Enterprises. But Marie is so much more. She's a 46-year-old single mother, raising 2 kids on her own. Deja, a bright 12-year-old, with dreams of becoming a scientist, and Malik, a 9-year-old, with a gentle heart and a love for drawing. Every morning, Marie wakes at 4 a.m., gets her children ready, drops them off at school, works a part-time job at a laundromat, then arrives at Cross Global by 5 p.m. for her night shift. She never complains. She's never late. She moves through the building like a whisper, tidying, scrubbing, emptying trash, all without disrupting a soul. Most employees barely glance her way, but Daniel Cross, the CEO, sees her. He notices the way she double-checks the conference rooms, how she hums softly when she thinks no one's around, and how her eyes carry a weariness that goes beyond physical fatigue. He begins to wonder, what is she carrying that no one sees? Because behind her silence and routine, there's something else, something she's hiding. And Daniel, for reasons he can't explain, needs to find out what it is. Marie Thompson's day begins before the sun rises. At 4 a.m., her alarm buzzes in the dark silence of their small 2-bedroom apartment. She moves quietly so as not to wake Deja and Malik, preparing cereal and laying out their clothes before gently rousing them with kisses and whispered encouragement. By 6:30 a.m., she's dropped them off at school and is headed to her first job at the laundromat, where she stands for hours folding other people's clothes with aching hands and a tired back. She eats only if there's time, often just a banana or a granola bar. Her lunch breaks are short, and her shoes, cracked and worn at the soles, don't cushion her much anymore. Still, she greets customers with warmth, jokes with her coworkers, and keeps going. By 4:30 p.m., she's on the bus to Cross Global, arriving just before 5. There, she slips into the background, methodically cleaning floor after floor. No one sees the blister on her heel or the worry behind her smile, but the strength in her stride and the care in her work speak volumes. Marie is tired, down to her bones, but she refuses to let it break her. Daniel Cross couldn't shake the feeling. Each night, as he passed Marie in the halls, his mind lingered on her more than he cared to admit. It wasn't guilt, it was something deeper, curiosity, concern. He'd built his empire by seeing what others missed, and Marie, she was hiding something beneath that quiet strength. One evening, long after most employees had gone home, he watched her leave through the side entrance. Something in her shoulders, heavier than usual, pushed him to act. He slipped on his coat, kept his distance, and followed. He expected a bus stop, maybe a long walk home. Instead, Marie veered into a dim, forgotten alleyway behind an old church. What he saw next stopped him cold. Marie wasn't going home. She was unlocking the side door to the shelter below the church, and then, with practiced ease, she tucked her bag into a corner cot, her home for the night. Daniel stood in the shadows, stunned. He'd followed Marie expecting to confirm a hunch, that she lived far away, maybe struggled more than she let on. But nothing prepared him for this. Instead of heading home, Marie had taken a quiet detour to the basement of an old brick church nestled between empty storefronts and graffiti-covered walls. He watched as she unlocked the side entrance with her own key, slipped inside, and re-emerged moments later wearing an apron. Inside, flickering lights revealed folding tables, rows of weary faces, and the faint smell of soup. She moved with purpose, ladling food, passing out blankets, gently resting her hand on trembling shoulders. She laughed with an elderly man missing teeth. She brought an extra slice of bread to a young woman clutching a child. And when no one was looking, she sat for just a moment, only to get back up and keep serving. Daniel's throat tightened. Here was a woman who had almost nothing, worn shoes, skipped meals, a cot in a shelter, but still chose to give, chose to care. Everything he thought he understood about strength, success, and sacrifice suddenly felt hollow. He had been expecting to uncover a need. Instead, he discovered a kind of quiet greatness. And for the first time in a long time, the CEO had no words, only questions. The next morning, Daniel sat alone in his office, Mary's quiet acts replaying in his mind. He opened her employee file, something he'd never bothered to do for a janitor before. What he found made his chest tighten. Marie Thompson, once a college student majoring in biology, honors student, bright future. Then came the unexpected, her mother's cancer diagnosis. She dropped out in her final year to become a full-time caregiver. After her mother passed, she was left with crushing medical debt and 2 young children, her niece and nephew, orphaned by tragedy, whom she had legally adopted. There were gaps in her employment, past eviction notices, hospital bills marked unpaid, and yet, through it all, she never asked for help. She worked, she gave, she endured. Daniel leaned back in his chair, shaken. He had always admired resilience, celebrated grit in the boardroom, but Marie redefined it. She wasn't just an employee, she was a quiet force of nature, a woman who had sacrificed everything and still showed up every single day. For the first time, Daniel didn't see a janitor. He saw a hero, one the world had overlooked, and he knew he couldn't anymore. It took Daniel 2 more days to work up the courage. When he finally approached Marie, it wasn't with the commanding presence he was known for. It was with something softer, a quiet, genuine humility. He waited until her shift ended, then asked if she had a few minutes to talk. She hesitated, unsure, then nodded slowly. They sat in a small, unused conference room. Marie looked down, fidgeting with the frayed edge of her uniform. "Did I do something wrong?" she asked, voice low. "No," Daniel said gently. "You've done everything right." There was a long pause before she spoke again, softly at first, then with quiet strength. She told him about her mother's illness, the scholarship she gave up, the nieces she now called her own. She spoke of late notices, shelters, skipping meals so her kids could eat. But she also talked about her children's dreams, the community at the church, and the hope she carried like a fragile flame. "I just want them to have a better life," she said. "That's all I've ever wanted." Daniel listened in silence, his throat tightening. By the end, his eyes were wet. He had led mergers, saved companies, outmaneuvered crises, but nothing had ever moved him like Marie's truth. In her, he didn't just see resilience, he saw greatness, the kind the world rarely rewards, but desperately needs. And in that quiet room, something changed in him. Forever. A week later, Daniel returned to the small conference room, but this time with a different purpose. Marie's story had stayed with him, reshaping how he saw everything and her. He offered her more than a thank you. "Marie," he began, "you've shown strength and dedication beyond what I've ever seen. I want to offer you a promotion, a chance to move into a management role overseeing facility operations. We'll provide training and flexible hours so you can continue your education." He added child support benefits and assured her that Cross Global would sponsor her children's schooling, easing the financial burden that had weighed so heavily on her for years. "And," he continued, "we're enrolling you in our mentorship program for women facing hardships, where you can build skills and find community." Marie's eyes widened in disbelief. This was more than a job offer. It was a lifeline. Daniel smiled warmly. "You've been a hero in silence. Now let us help you thrive." Tears welled in Marie's eyes, not just relief, but hope. For the first time in a long time, she saw a future where her dreams and her children's could truly take flight, and she wasn't alone anymore. Marie accepted Daniel's offer with a mix of gratitude and cautious hope. The promotion came with a new title, Facilities Coordinator, and with it, respect she had never dared to imagine. The company provided her with flexible hours and tuition support, allowing her to return to school and finish her degree. Financial relief followed, easing the burden of bills and letting her breathe a little easier. Her children flourished too. Deja, once quietly curious, now dreamed loudly of becoming a doctor, buoyed by scholarships sponsored by Cross Global. Malik's sketches grew bolder, his confidence blossoming in ways Marie had only hoped for. Despite her new role, Marie never stopped volunteering at the shelter. Now with access to better resources and a stronger support network, she brought food, blankets, and hope to more people than ever before. Her quiet determination remained, but now it was fueled by opportunity instead of exhaustion. For Marie, life was no longer just about survival. It was about possibility, about turning hardship into strength, dreams into reality, and quiet resilience into something loud and proud. And as she walked the halls of Cross Global, she no longer felt invisible. She felt seen, valued. Finally, she felt free. The CEO has come to realize just how blind the world can be to silent heroes, those who work tirelessly behind the scenes yet go unnoticed and unsupported. This awakening has deeply affected her view of the company and its responsibility toward its employees. Recognizing that many low-income staff members struggle quietly, she has made a firm decision to change company policy to offer comprehensive support to all employees in need, not just a select few. This new approach ensures that no one is left behind or overlooked, fostering a more inclusive and caring workplace culture. Beyond policy changes, the CEO has taken it upon herself to visit the local shelter regularly, seeking to understand firsthand the challenges faced by vulnerable members of the community. These visits have reinforced her commitment to empathy and action, inspiring her to lead by example and create a company that truly values and uplifts every individual. It's easy to overlook the quiet ones, the people who don't ask for help but carry heavy burdens every day. I encourage you to look deeper, to see beyond the surface, and to be kinder to those around you. Sometimes, the people with the hardest lives are the ones who give the most, offering strength, resilience, and kindness despite their struggles. Your simple act of care, a smile, a listening ear, a helping hand, can make a world of difference. Don't underestimate the power of empathy. You never know who you're walking past or how you might change their life by simply caring. Let's choose to notice, to support, and to uplift the silent heroes among us. Together we can create a community where everyone feels seen, valued, and loved.